apart. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Fading game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Man up now, we own it true. Breaking change, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
Thrive in 25. We are back again with another episode with some good friends here. Well, one good friend. Another guy is becoming a good friend. So I've known Brad here, and this is practically famous. So I've known Brad here for a long
What's up?
and I'm pretty sure that you could catch him in that intro video as well. Because
Yeah, I noticed a few shots of me there. How long ago was that Miami trip now?
dude, I think that was like
4
21.
years. Yeah, 21, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say you guys look really young in that.
Oh, do I look so young?
Yeah, you do.
Why are you saying I don't look young now?
Well,
What the fuck?
You do look. I mean, you look exquisite now, but just rocking that.
Look
gray
better
hair.
than ever, I think.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then Jake, you're the second half of this practically famous podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who the hell are you, dude?
Hey, I'm a new friend that that likes to walk around like I'm famous. So I'm here to talk about it.
Oh, that's good stuff. And then joined by Kevin as well. Kevin, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Weather's not that awesome here in North Carolina right now, but it could be worse. But other than that, man, I'm doing great. You know me, I can't have a bad day.
Absolutely. No, it's good stuff. And guys, I wanna start before we even dive into this, because I think it is such a fantastic idea to talk about celebrity energy. You know, when you think of those random people that you meet in life, and you want to be friends with them, you want to be around them, you want to hang out with them, and you don't even really know why. There's something magnetic about them. And so I really want to get into that energy, but I want to start at the very beginning here. Like, who the hell is Brad and Jake, and what do we mean practically famous? What is this all about?
Yeah, so I've been around in the men's personal development, men's dating space actually for a little bit of time now, because I went through a divorce about 7 years ago, maybe almost 8 years ago now. Man, time flies. It's crazy. And in that time, that's when I found the men's dating space, the men's personal development space. And I just kind of threw myself full into it as like, what went wrong? I had no idea, why my marriage ended and what the issues were. So I delved straight into that with the pickup artist stuff. That was like my big thing. I was super involved in the pickup artist community. And just through that, I grew so much, and I developed myself as a man and as a person through that. So I just knew that this is where I want to be for the most part for the rest of my life. I want to be helping other guys overcome the challenges that they've overcome, helping them overcome the limiting mindsets that they've developed over their lives, maybe the bad lessons that they've been taught throughout their lives as young men, thinking just, be a nice guy, be civil, be chill, and not getting the results that they want. So that's where I came from. And then I finally started my own business last year through Twitter, and I built up a nice little following there. I worked with a bunch of clients, and I was actually engaged at the time. So I went from my marriage into the PUA dating space, had a lot of success there. And then I met this girl, I thought she was great. And we got into a relationship, we got engaged. But as the wedding date grew closer, I started to realize that, the relationship wasn't as good as I thought it was. And I ended up walking away from it just 2 weeks before the wedding actually happened. And it was a whole big thing, a whole big ordeal in my life. Yeah, it was really intense, and it was a really difficult thing to do, a really difficult decision for me to make. But I went ahead and made it because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And when that happened, I was still kind of living, my life. I felt like half in, half out. It was like half into the old lifestyle that I used to live, and then half out in the new kind of identity that I had developed. And what I realized is that as I got closer to the wedding, I was starting to slip further and further and further back into the old kind of identity that I had back when I was married the first time. And I just had this big realization. I was like, oh my God, I'm not living the life that I want to live. I'm not being true to myself. I'm not living truly authentically. And if I really want to, go big in my business, and I really want to go big with helping men, then I need to go all in on that and not be half in, half out anymore. So I called it off with her. I ended up quitting my day job, selling my house, and moving from California to Arizona to pursue this full time. And that's where I met Jake here through a mutual friend of ours. And me and him we really clicked over time, and we realized that we kind of have very similar mindsets, and that we really are kind of like just compatible on a business and friendship level. So we started going out a lot. And as we started going out a lot, we started having a lot of conversations just about going out, social dynamics, talking to girls, meeting girls, dating girls. And then we realized, like, dude, like these conversations that we're having are so fire. We need to start a podcast. And so that's what we did. About 2 months ago, we started the Practically Famous podcast. And that's where I'm at now.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you were practically famous, and then you realized that the dead weight was the ex-fiance, so you had to drop her, and then you could actually become famous. Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was my whole entire life, and we can dive into this a little deeper in the episode, but it wasn't just her, it was everything, right? Like I said, I quit my day job, I sold my house, I left California because I realized that if I wanted to truly step into this full identity of who I wanted to be and the man that I know myself to be, I needed to get rid of all the dead weight, right? And I don't say dead in like in a mean way or anything like that. Like,
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I was just making it as a joke myself.
Yeah. But I realized I just needed a whole entire fresh start. And what I've learned from that is a lot of deep lessons about manhood and stepping out on your own and forging your own path and becoming your own man and stepping away from all the weight and pressure that people put on you to be the way they want you to be. And that to become your own man, you really have to step out on your own and tell the world who you are instead of letting the world tell you who they want you to be.
That was fire.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, that was good. Nothing
Yeah,
like
and I can kind of add to that because I'm divorced myself. Like I say in a joking way, we all have our practice wife, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it was supposed to be, man. 23, 24, you've been with the same person for 5-6 years. We're supposed to get married and you build the happy life together. And nowadays, I mean, and maybe back in the 50s, 60s, even 70s, that used to work, but it doesn't. It's a different time now. And I can totally empathize and feel you on the point of you got your divorce, and then now it was almost a social norm to, okay, so you meet somebody else and you get married really quickly. Or not even quickly, but that's what you were supposed to do. Okay, because that's what my ex-wife did. She was married within 6 months of our divorce. And so you almost think that society, social dynamics and all that kind of pushes you in that direction so the next person you meet that you have some sort of feelings for, you say, okay, well, she must be the one now since the other one wasn't. And kudos to you for recognizing that early, even though it's 2 weeks for your marriage. It was early enough that you didn't waste another 10, 15, 20 years of your life with the wrong person and look back and regret it. And being the nice guy, being the social man that we were brought up to be, is where a lot of young guys get caught up in it. And to recognize that and say, this is not me, and to have to make a total change like that, to sell your house, change locations, change scenery, change jobs, that's probably the best thing you ever did for yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, they don't have the support around them, whether it be family, friends, whatever, to do something like that. And so that's why it's so important to have groups like we have, that you have a support system to say, hey, man, you're probably making the right decision. If it feels right, do it. I'd rather try and fail than look back 20 years from now and not regret not even trying at all.
Absolutely. It has been the best thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also been the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. It's been harder than even my divorce was, because my divorce caught me completely kind of blindsided because I was just young. I didn't know anything. Whereas like this time I felt like I should have known better. But because it wasn't just a breakup, it was a whole entire life change, walking away from a very secure and stable job, walking away from California, which is where I lived my whole entire life, moving to a new state, starting over. All of that was incredibly difficult. And there was definitely a couple months there at the beginning where I had to spend many days and many weeks wondering daily, like, holy shit, did I make the right decision? Why did I walk away from all this security? Because people will tell you, society will tell you that security is everything. Find the stable job, find the stable spouse, find the, stable home and all that. And I lost all that, or I didn't lose it, but I intentionally walked away from it. And so I was feeling this lack of security, and it was really hard for me to deal with. And so I had to work through that really intensely. But eventually, when I came out on the other side and realized that I'm actually living a life of adventure now, and a life of fun, and a very interesting life, it has been the best thing ever. And I'm starting to realize that that's what really life is about. Life isn't about just finding a safe little hole, crawling into it, and waiting to die.
Yeah.
It's about going for it. And it's scary as hell. And I totally understand why people don't do it, because hell, like I've gone through some very difficult and dark days in that process. But now, like I said, that I'm out on the other side, it's so much fun. And I'm starting to realize that like, this is what life is about, because every single day I'm kind of living on my edge, and I'm relying on myself rather than relying on the stable job or the stable partner or whatever. It's all about me, and it's all about my life, and about becoming the man that I was meant to be.
Sure. Yeah. And if you can find somebody in the future that can fit into that life, that'll be a great thing. But if it doesn't happen, you're going to be okay. And that's the greatest realization a man can have.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, love it.
So
I think you're muted there, Heads.
But no, I love that. I love that. If you don't mind me asking, who initiated the divorce? Was it her or you?
The divorce was initiated
That
by
actually was
her.
Jake. Jake initiated the divorce because he wanted to get Brad all to himself.
Right. I needed a partner, and so I was like, what can I do here?
Yeah, I didn't know Jake 8 years ago,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Well, Jake would have been a young whippersnapper at that time for sure.
Yeah, a 19-year-old Jake.
Yeah, you would have been 19 years old. But yeah, so she initiated the divorce.
Yeah.
She initiated it because I honestly, like, it was pretty much my fault. Like, I initiated all the actions that started leading to the downfall of it. I think on a like deep subconscious level, I kind of wanted a way out. And so I started sabotaging the relationship. But even though I was doing that.
No, Brad, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but tell us, how did you mess it up?
Oh my God, dude.
That's a great question.
Dude, I've told very few people this, so this is gonna be interesting.
An exclusive.
Yeah, no, this is huge. So I'm gonna try and condense the long story into as short as possible, but I was actually a virgin when I got married. I got married at 23 years old. I was a virgin on my wedding night. And the reason I was like that is because I was super religious, super conservative. And I just thought like, oh, that's the right thing to do, right? And then a few years into the marriage, maybe 2, 3 years into the marriage, I actually ended up walking away from my faith and my religion. And she did as well. Like we walked away together. But when we did that, I kind of had this idea in my head that was like, holy shit, like I think the only reason I got married was so that I could have sex, because I was trying so hard to wait for my wedding day to have sex that, I basically I married the first girl that was into me at all. And because of that, I started to think like maybe we're not as compatible. And then I started to, experience sexual variety because I never experienced that before. I never really had any kind of crazy single life or college experiences or anything like that most people have in their lives, or I don't even know if most people have is the right terminology, but I felt like I was missing out on something.
Mhm.
And so I actually started bringing up the idea to her of opening up our marriage because I wanted to experience sexual variety. And even though that was my idea, she was the first one to take advantage of the idea, and I didn't handle it very well. And that completely just led to the downfall of our relationship. In the end, it was for the best because it did get me what I want. It allowed me to be free of that commitment to go after the sexual variety that I had been craving and the lifestyle that I had been craving. But it was pretty brutal when it happened, for sure.
So did you guys both agree to it and agree to opening the relationship, and then she took advantage first? Is that what
It
happened?
was very like it
was
was like
wishy-washy.
just very back and forth, like maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. And then she started doing it, and then I like just couldn't handle it, for obvious reasons. It was just very difficult for me to deal with. But then the relationship ended, and then I was free, and then I kind of just became a little man whore after that. So well.
Well, it sounds like with that experience, it's very interesting because it sounds like with that experience, you didn't yet know how to communicate effectively. So
No.
then, when she's asking you, like, what are you actually looking for? What do you actually want? You saying that you want to open it up is essentially just saying, I'm just not happy with what we currently have.
Yeah.
But you didn't know how to exactly say it to her in that way that she would have received it and understood it.
Exactly. Yeah, basically it was just my way of saying that like this isn't what I want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was too hard for me to say, in the moment that like, hey, I don't want to be married anymore. And it wasn't that I was just like consciously like, oh my God, I just don't want to be married. Like I like she was still my wife. I still loved her and everything.
Mhm.
But my life didn't look the way I wanted it to look. And that was the issue at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. And those are natural feelings, especially for a man. That's why 80% of marriages or divorces are initiated by the woman. Because men, a lot of us are competitive, and to end our marriage is almost a loss. No man ever wants to take that. And so, maybe saying subconsciously, I was bringing up stuff that I thought might spice up the marriage, but you had probably knew in the back of your mind, this is probably the beginning of the end. It reminds me of the book Neil Strauss wrote, I think back in 2015, The Truth. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I actually haven't read that one. I've read The Game, obviously, a classic,
Yes,
but
yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
read The Truth.
Yeah, The Truth. It talks about, when him and Ingrid, they're still broken up again. He wanted to go on this path of sexual freedom, and when he got it, he found out it didn't really work for him. But anyways, it kind of lists a lot of the problems that in relationships that have like you said, okay, we're open up, and she was open to it, and then that was kind of a whoa, wait a minute, really?
Yeah.
So it's a good read if you ever think about it. I don't want to stay on the subject for too long, but a lot of us too, because there was a lot of times, and we were together. I was 17, she was 16, and we got divorced when I was 27 and she was 26. So we had but we were more roommates than anything at the end. and I was deployed to Iraq my second time when she met her husband that she has now. And so it was a clean break and everything, but there was such a relief there, even though I didn't want it to happen, because to me that was a loss.
Yeah,
I'm a
sure.
very competitive guy. And then plus we're kind of brought up to divorce is not the thing to do. However, in today's age, sometimes it's necessary to live the life that you want and to see yourself the way you want to see you, like you were talking about. And so it's not as taboo as it used to be to get a divorce, not making light of it. But, sometimes men, we have the problem of initiating it when we know it's what we want. And a lot of men will stay in a relationship, stagnant, sexless, empty bedroom, not fulfilled, roommates instead of partners anymore, longer than we ever should. And
Yeah,
if you can
definitely.
wake up, and tell yourself, hey, man, everything's going to be okay. You're not going to lose everything you have. I don't know about you. I'm probably one of the most fortunate people in a divorce that I got everything. I got all the debt that came along with it. However, admitted infidelity was forfeiture of all marital assets. So I didn't get raked through the coals. I didn't have to pay her alimony, all that bullshit, which most men don't get in a divorce. But the fact that we didn't have kids and all that was a blessing. Now that it was
Yeah,
over.
same. We didn't have kids either, so that was a huge blessing. We were able to end the marriage amicably.
Mm.
I kept the house. I just paid her off basically like a lump sum rather
Yeah.
than like straight up alimony or anything. We just agreed on a certain amount and I just paid her off monthly. It took me a few years to pay her off, but overall, like, I was kind of, I don't want to say happy to pay it, but I realized that like it wasn't anything life altering. It wasn't
Yeah.
gonna crush me or anything like that. And like you said, like I didn't necessarily want to end it either. So what did I start doing? I started looking for ways to sabotage it basically.
Mm.
Right. And so my subconscious mind was just like constantly guiding me towards like, hey, Brad, you want this different life. This isn't what you want. So how about we just start sowing all these seeds of, destruction in the marriage, which, looking back on it, was kind of a passive aggressive way to do it. And I wish I could have just stepped up and like been like, hey, look, this is the truth. But at the time I was so young and like she was the only girl I'd ever been with. So it was hard for me to
Yeah, that pussy
acknowledge
was
that.
fire. You had nothing to compare it to, so that
Mhm.
dude, that was the best pussy ever.
Yeah, the only.
Yeah, so we don't get stuck on it too much. So I'm sure there's a lot of young men in the same position that you were in at that time. What advice would you give to them?
Oh, dude, man. So let me tell you this. The reason that I am like this and that I've made it through stuff like that is because I am extremely committed to becoming the man that I want to be. I knew that when my marriage ended, I still had all these thoughts of like, oh my God, am I ever going to have sex again? Like, am I ever going to get another girl that's attractive? Like all these thoughts that like were swirling through my head. But, I made a very intense and genuine commitment to myself. It's like, hey, whatever it takes, I'm going to become the man that I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it starts, right? It starts with knowing yourself. I feel like a lot of guys, the reason they hold on to relationships is because they don't want to put in the work that it's going to take to attract another girl. They don't want to go through the process of self-development that it's going to take to become the actual version of themselves that they want to be. So they're just trying to hold on to what they have. So it's a very safety-seeking mindset, and that's how they tend to live their lives. But I've never been like that. And that's the reason why I did eventually have the strength and the courage to walk away from my engagement. That was even harder than my divorce. It really was because,
Well, it was 2 weeks before the wedding.
yeah, the woman that, I was engaged to, just phenomenally higher quality than my ex-wife. And on paper, our relationship was really great. I didn't leave because she was a bad person. I didn't leave because I didn't like her. I didn't love her or anything like that. I just left because I knew that I wanted to live a different life than she wanted me to live. And I just had to make a call. And again, like the same thing with walking or not that I walked away from the marriage, you know, she's the one that walked away, but the same thing with the end of the marriage. I had to develop this belief in myself that I could actually overcome this trauma and become a better person. And I really dedicated every ounce of energy that I had in my life to doing that, so that it wouldn't be something that I just regretted for the rest of my life. So the first thing, you know, that I would say to guys, like, if you're in a situation like that, is like, number one, you got to believe in yourself, and you got to be willing to go through hell to get to the other side, because it will be hell. Like, if your relationship ends, it really is hard. You know, breakups are trauma, period. Whether it's a good relationship or a bad relationship, a breakup is trauma, and it fucking sucks. I've been through 3 major breakups in my life, and every single one has been incredibly difficult, but every single one has also been incredibly transformative, because through the depths of, you know, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? From the depths of that, like, darkness and despair, I've always risen better and stronger than I have before.
Yeah.
But it's not because that's inevitable. It's because I did the work. I could have easily crumbled as well, and I could have become worse, and I could have given up on life, or I could have, you know, like, gone my own way or done something like that. But I just knew that's not the kind of life I wanted to be, and that's not the kind of man that I wanted to be. So whatever it takes, like, that's my mindset. Whatever it takes, however much money I got to put into this, however much time I got to put into this, however much energy I got to put into this, I'm going to do that so that I can get what I actually want in life. I don't know. To me, like, that's just what I think life is about. Like, I believe that I only have one life to live. I don't believe I have forever. I don't believe I have an afterlife. I just think this is it, and I'm going to make the most of it. So I'm going to put every single ounce of energy I have into making it the best life I can have.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I want to go back to what you were saying with oh God, sorry, there was just something there that, like, was really hitting me. The giving things up. Oh yeah, going through the growth stage that comes with some of these breakups. I initially was going to make a joke when you're like, yeah, I've been through like 3 or 4 like major breakups. And it's like, oh, this guy's a huge player. Or like, I could make the joke like, oh, this guy hasn't dated that many girls. Like, you can make any joke any which way. But what you were actually saying there was like really, really, really powerful. Because when you have the ability to go ahead and do that breakup, go through that that process, and then you get something even better. Everybody understands how RPGs work, so we know that we have differing skill levels across the board. So yes, you may not get one that is a level 10 in this area. She may only be a level 7 or a level 6 there, but she collectively is higher across the board, across all the other stats. And that's what happened with me when I had gone through my last real bad breakup. And I ended up meeting somebody who, yeah, no, she's not better in certain areas. I'm not going to lie. But collectively, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life.
Hell yeah.
And that's beauty. That's beauty right there.
Love that.
Yep, that's amazing.
Well, Jake, I haven't heard from you too much.
Yeah.
And I need to understand.
You need to know
how you're practically famous. And I need to hear the Jake story.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll give you an overview of how I got here, right? So I think my story on how I got into the men's space is pretty similar to a lot of guys, right? So when I was 23, 24, I went through a breakup, and it like really, really affected me, right? I crumbled in that situation. And I had grown up without a very strong father figure, and I was raised with my mom and my sisters. I have 3 older sisters, and so I was like in this place where I was trying to deal with the breakup, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to handle myself. I didn't know how to move through the world as a strong, grounded man. And I really struggled for a long time to figure out what that looked like, because I knew that there was something that I was not getting, and not a result of not a fault of my own, but I think just a result of the circumstances of my life. So around that time, I got into men's work and personal development, and I joined various men's groups. Um, I actually joined the men's group. So the book No More Mr. Nice Guy has a men's group that's associated with it. That's where I started. And
Oh,
for
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
classic book.
great,
That book was a huge launching pad
yeah,
for
it really
myself for
was.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that at that time, like I was in such a dark place, but I didn't know why. And then I read that book and I started to put it together. Right, that was the first
Yeah.
step into being like, oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of things that I could be doing differently that I
Mhm.
didn't know that I could be stronger in.
Yeah.
So I started there. I spent a lot of time just in men's groups trying to heal from falling apart. But eventually, I kind of came to a place where I knew I wanted to work on dating. I knew I wanted to work on confidence. I knew I wanted to define what my own masculinity looked like. And so I did that. Right, I went out looking and searching, and I didn't have anybody in my life that was able to support that. So I had to go and find it myself. And I came across various dating coaches. And one thing that really resonated with me was this idea of embodiment. And so I worked with a coaching group where their main focus was embodiment. And I've learned a lot about what that means and how that relates to showing up in the world in a confident way. And it's something that I feel like I've uh, almost specialized in as far as this process and this journey in this men's development space.
What exactly is embodiment,
Right. Yeah.
Jake?
So embodiment is the practice of learning to feel into the subtle emotions, energies, and sensations going on in your body at any time. So, Huds, you mentioned, when you started this podcast, like you meet those people that you don't know what it is about them, but they have some sort of magnetism to them, something like that. But you almost can't put your finger on it.
Mhm.
And through everything that I've learned that, embodiment is a process of feeling into your body, into your nervous system specifically. Those people that you meet that they seem larger than life, they feel really good in their body. They're really in touch with the energies going on in their body. And us as human beings, we connect through feeling more so than we do logic. And so those people that you come across have this energy inside of them, this energy that we all have, but some of us, most of us have lost touch with. So embodiment is the practice of getting back to that space, learning to feel all of your emotions fully in your body so that you can learn to cultivate positive ones and that you can learn to exchange those freely with people. And for us, that's been a big part, I think, of what we're building right now with Practically Famous. We're learning to teach ourselves to feel good and to exchange positive energy, and so that when you appear in people's lives, they're moved. They're moved because of the depth of who you are as a person, and the depth that you can feel.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I spent a lot of time learning about embodiment, and then I moved out here to Arizona, pretty much specifically to work on my dating life and to live the life that I wanted to live. Yeah. Then I met Brad as through a mutual friend, and like he said, I think that we work really well together. I think we're good. We're a good team, and because of that, I really believe in what we're building and the potential that we have and our ability to bring concepts together and create distinct processes that could help people. Right. So that's kind of what
Mm.
we're doing, and we're also learning at the same time. So it's been a pretty magical experience, I'd say. I think we've had some
Yeah.
really, really profound moments of breakthrough, of flow, of courage. So it's been good. I think that we're just starting to. So there's a lot of positivity in front of us.
Yeah, I can tell that you guys have a very good balance of energy, which
Mhm.
is good, especially when you're trying to translate a message to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys do an absolutely fantastic job. I know I've caught a couple episodes so far of your podcast, and it has been great. Just looking at things, I mean, gosh, we were talking about this a little bit before. Um, ah, everything in the space now is nonsense.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of nonsense going on in the men's personal development space, and that's another big, like, almost like spiritual component of what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to really bring a lot of realness and
Mhm.
rawness, vulnerability and authenticity to our practice. And we are deeply aware of what the way that the name of our podcast might come across to people, Practically Famous. It might sound so superficial, right? Because people have certain ideas about celebrities or fame that they might like write off as like, oh, that's actually fake. But what we've really learned is that it's almost the exact opposite, because to be someone who's like quote unquote famous is to be someone who is comfortable being seen by others, essentially, right? Because they're famous, they're being seen by many, 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 many people, right?
Can,
And do you
can
have
I
a question?
completely derail this?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, can't you say that Kanye and his new song "Hail Hitler," it's all the same thing, right?
Yeah.
He's
So, like,
drawing
for
the
example,
attention. He's making it.
Kanye has no problem being seen for who he is. And that's why people are drawn to him, even if he is ridiculous in some of the things that he does. He
Exactly.
has no problem being seen. He lacks shame. And I
Mhm.
feel like the biggest problem that most men face is a deep-seated toxic shame, right? That's all over No More Mr. Nice Guy is all about toxic shame. And
Hmm.
men have a deep-seated fear of being seen, right? And I feel like that's why the idea of, you know, pickup artistry and everything is so appealing to men, because they're like, hey, just give me some lines so I can go get the girl, steal her away, and then like go hide again, where I don't have to
Yeah.
be seen by people. But what we're talking about is becoming leaders, is becoming men who are known in their community and are willing to be true to themselves, be authentic, express themselves authentically, and not care what other people think of them. And that is going to naturally draw people to you. And that's going to naturally draw women to you, because they're going to see that you're not being weighed down by crushing amounts of shame. You don't hate yourself. You don't want to hide from the world. You're not being crippled by addiction or insecurity or fear or anything like that.
Yeah. And I think something important too that we focus on is that we always say that we've used this process of not only improving our dating lives but becoming practically famous as a vehicle for personal transformation, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that at least I did, and I think it's true for you as well. We had pretty humble beginnings, right? Like I just wanted to get girls. I didn't really think it was that deep, but then the process itself forced me to look at who I am. And it forced me to
Mhm.
see that I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. And so now for me, it's not about getting girls anymore. It's about, like you said, burning off what prevents me from showing up as my true self. And it's this process that we've chosen to go down to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of what you guys talk about, it reminds of what we're doing at the minimum now, because we consider ourselves, we've graduated red pill ideology, and the manosphere, we've left it behind because that's so one tracked, and
Mhm.
it's got the water has gotten so muddy with red pill ideology that we've graduated from it.
Yeah.
But what I like what you both said is it took you a little journey to get to the realization that it's all about working on myself
Mhm.
and becoming the man I want to become. And that makes me more attractive to women, makes me more attractive to other men. So I'm not faking it. We brought up PUA a couple times. If you look at some of our first podcast, we kind of did an evolution. You know, most of the PUAs out there, Mystery, Strauss himself, a lot of those guys ended up broke, alone, and some of them with mental issues because they got so caught up in that one thing of the routines of a pickup artist to get that number, never evolved and never took it to the next level. You know, a lot of them, Mystery is probably the most famous because of the TV show that he had. Everything ended up with one-itis with a girl, and then when that didn't work out, he ended up in a mental institution for a little while. Fortunately, he's doing great now, but it's still, it caught up in one aspect of it that didn't evolve. And what I like, what you have both said, is that it taught me to work on myself, focus on myself, better myself, always continue to grow myself where I want to go. And that's what it's all about. And it's so hard, especially in today's, like when you were talking about, you grew up with 3 sisters and a mother, no father figure. So you were probably the best example of how most men are brought up nowadays. And most men are brought up, young men are brought up how they're supposed to treat women. And then women are brought up of what to expect from a man. And so that dynamic is very, very detrimental to a man's growth for himself. And so unfortunately, you have to go through some trials and tribulations to get to that point where you realize, okay, like you said, one life to live. I'm going to live it for me. I'm going to learn what I want out of this life, and that's what I'm going to go after. And by doing that, you're going to attract more people, not only women, but good friends, good mentors, good proteges in the process by doing that for yourself. And the faster you learn that as a man, to live for yourself and do what you need to do to be the man you want to be, the better off you'll be. Because if you wait till you're 50, brother, it's too late.
Yeah.
No, I like what you said too. It's common for guys nowadays to not have that guidance that they need growing up. So for me, you're exactly right. I was kind of that exact case. And when I was 23, I went through heartbreak, but really the core of my heartbreak was not the girl leaving me. The core of my heartbreak was, going out into the world and seeing that I was not prepared at all. I was crushed by that realization that like I lacked so much, confidence, masculinity, ability to stand up for myself.
What are you talking about? They teach you everything in school.
Yeah, exactly. And so the hardest thing for me was to look at myself in the mirror and be like, wow, who am I? And so that's why I went to men's groups, because I knew I needed to learn.
No, and it's good that you found that, and it's good you realize that. You know, because a lot of guys don't realize that. I'm a man too. I know how hard it is to go to someone else and say, I need help, or I want help, or to ask the questions that you don't feel like a man is supposed to ask. But when you break through that silence and you get uncomfortable in those situations, you realize that you only come out better in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to ask a little bit more about that. Like, what led you to choosing like a men's group to be like the avenue that you would talk to people? Like, because we have all experienced it, and it seems to be one of the best ways to fill some gaps that we may have had from other leadership growing up. But how did you recognize that, and like how did that experience look like?
Yeah, very painfully. So I went I went through a breakup and I was feeling terrible. And at the time, my only support system was my mom, was my sisters, and then I would go to them and I'd be like, I'm having so many dark feelings, and they couldn't relate. Not only could they not relate, they at the time I was reading books about what it means to be a man, no more Mr. Nice Guy, and I brought these ideas to them, and I was hit with very hard emotional what's the right word? Emotional
Resistance or
resistance. Yeah, like they were very aggressive to me in a negative way, saying that I shouldn't be. It's bad for a man to learn masculinity and all this stuff, and it just felt not only did I lose the girlfriend and I realized that I had no skills, but at the
Yeah,
same
but you're
time,
still wrong too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And then my
It's all your
whole
fault.
yeah, my support system was falling out from underneath of me, and so I had nowhere to go. But I was feeling incredibly painful. I knew that there was something out there, right? I don't know, you know, I feel that I'm guided in my life by some higher power. I'm not particularly religious, but I think there is something that's guiding me. And the pain that I was in showed me that there was something I needed to learn, and the places that supported me growing up were not supporting me now. And so I that was the only thing I knew how to do. And I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I went to that men's group, and
Mhm.
I just kept learning and learning and learning. And then I went to actually the Mankind Project after that, which if no one's done that, the Mankind Project is fantastic. You should definitely do it. They offer an initiation weekend where you go and you spend 3 nights with them and you go through. I don't want to say too much because part of it is about the experience, but you go
Mhm.
there you you have experiences that show you that I went there and I realized that the challenging moments that I was going through as a man, I wasn't the only man that was going through that. And so when I realized
Mm.
that, I knew that learning about masculinity, learning about leadership, learning about confidence, learning about embodiment, they were all things that are interesting to me. And they're all things that a lot of other guys need that help too. And so that's why I've dove headfirst into this work, and I love it. And I know that we have a lot of things. If I could tell my 23-year-old self anything, it would be that all of the stuff you're going through it for a reason. It's teaching you what you need to know so that you can teach other people, and you can be a good leader of women, and you can be a good leader of everybody. Um, so yeah, it was that process that gave me the insight to go down this path.
I think that's so huge too, what you were saying about realizing that you're not alone as a man. I think that it's so easy to go on social media or even just go outside. Like, even if you go to a bar or a club or a social venue, you can look around and you can see other guys and, like, oh, they have girlfriends or they're with their friends or their group or whatever, and think, wow, I'm the only one who is struggling with these things. But there's so many, and, like, I don't just mean hundreds, I mean like millions of men who are going through these feelings of lacking the support system they need, lacking the friendships that they need, lacking the masculine support structure that used to exist to a better degree in this country. Whereas, you always hear, like, the stats of, like, back in the 90s, like, most men had at least a friend they could call on if they were going through a tough time. Whereas, like, now it's like most men don't even have a friend to call on, right? And so we do that is how we find things like these men's groups. And I think that these men's groups have a lot of value to offer the world, especially when society is shunning any kind of mainstream avenue for men to get real true support, right? Because any mainstream solution to a man's problem is going to be a very feminized solution, and it's probably not going to work for him. But if you can find a group of men who have figured out, hey, this is what's actually working in terms of being a man and being masculine in the year 2025, because we do have to understand the context of the time we live in. I'm very much not of the kind of mindset that a lot of people, especially like the red pill guys, I feel like have, is like, well, we just need to go back. I'm not about that. I'm not about that mindset. I'm not about living my entire life wishing that we could go back. I'm about, hey, how can we figure out how to do it right with what we've got right now? So what does it look like to be masculine in 2025? What does it look like to be a man in 2025 and be an effective man, be a good man, and not define manhood obviously by, like, what can you offer necessarily to the feminine, although that is part of being a man, right? And I feel like that's another thing that the red pill gets really wrong, is like, well, the feminine's not giving us anything, so we're not going to give them anything.
Yeah,
And
dude, it's such bullshit. I swear to God, I love this woman to death. I can't wait to have the kids. I can't wait for the rest of our life together. But God damn it, some of those arguments, some of those stupid crap, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's just how it is, though, and it's never going to make sense.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not going to it for a long time, especially when you live in the world right now that's so confusing. And I'm not going to make this an issue, but with the trans movement and women's sports and this kind of stuff, it makes it so difficult to try to become a masculine man because masculinity has been so diluted with the toxic version of it, that just being the man, just being the leader in the relationship, being the leader in the household. Now, look, it's not something we're taught in school. A lot of our dads couldn't even teach us that if they wanted to. So it's something you have to learn, but it's not what it's portrayed at. Masculine has almost become a derogatory term of
Sure.
just being a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just a burly guy with a hairy chest and you wear the hard hat. Kudos to those
Oh,
guys.
well,
But
thank you.
that's not that's not masculinity. Masculinity doesn't have to be tough, doesn't have to be like when they say protection and provider and protector. That just doesn't mean pulling a gun on anybody that looks at you wrong. No, that just means keeping them out of situations that might harm them. And the term toxic masculinity is not that old. And there's nothing about being there's no such thing as toxic femininity, is there? I've never heard of that.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
so that's a
what can
good
be
point.
toxic
That's a
about
good
being a
point.
masculine
Hey,
man?
Kevin, just pause for 1 second. That's one thing I want everybody to like take note of. Anytime that somebody is bringing to you any type of logical argument when they're talking about toxic masculinity, ask for the definition of the reverse. Okay, if this is toxic masculinity, this is the example you're using. Could you please define to me what toxic femininity is? And if they cannot clearly define right then and there, you're dealing with a bullshit argument.
Yeah,
And
because
I
nobody
was
can
thinking
really
about
define
that. I was
toxic
just thinking
masculinity.
about that before you even said that. I just want to make sure everybody like understands that. Easiest way to go ahead and flip.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about it. There's nothing toxic about masculinity or a masculine man or living that gender role. There's toxic people. We did a show
Kevin,
a couple years ago about toxic
they're
people.
taking advantage of the pink tax. So there is a lot that is a problem with masculinity.
Maybe they are, but
No, dude, I'm just fucking with you. I'm just making stuff up.
well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, we did a great show about a year and a half ago on toxic family members and toxic people in general. And none of it, if you're a toxic person, doesn't mean abusive. Toxic people, that men, women, they can all, there's different types of toxicity in people. There's the enabler, there's the victim, there's the criticizer, there's all these types of but none of it has to do with being masculine as a man and finding your inner masculinity. Doesn't mean you have to be big, tough, bodybuilder, this, that, and the other. Masculinity is something that is an ingrained role as a male, just like femininity is a ingrained role in females. And when you get two people together that can embrace those and they can work together, that's when you have a beautiful relationship. But then when you have the whole 50-50 equal, this, that, and the other come into play, that's when things get misscrewed. And that's what confuses a lot of young men out there. Because you were talking about it earlier, there's millions out there.
Yeah.
Some people call them AFCs, which that's
The average
labeling them in
frustrated
the
chump.
wrong way, average frustrated chumps. Yeah, that's going to put you in a bad place just to classify. But it's just confused young men out there that are trying to find their way.
Yeah, I
And
think you're right that, guys are so confused because even like you're saying, like the 50-50 idea, it's not that like it's not a bad idea on the surface. Like it sounds nice and everything, but I think it confuses men because then it has men starting to look for women who are going to do half of like the masculine duties as well. And so then men start to abandon their own masculine duties. And a lot of, me and Jake have been having this conversation. I don't know if we've had it so much on the podcast. Maybe we've touched on it, but a lot of what I've been learning personally about like what it really means to be a man is about being like 100% in charge of your own life and in control of your own life, because I was victim to that as well, feeling like, oh, I'm just looking for that other half, right? The other person to complete me. Whereas when I came out here and I was completely disconnected from all of my traditional, sources, and I'm very blessed to, I have a very supportive family, a very loving family. Both my parents are still together and still married, and my extended family is great. But that support system I left back in California, and when I came here and realized I didn't have it, not that I couldn't give them a call, I could, but I really realized when I got here that, wow, I have to really take care of myself.
Mhm.
And it's not going to be until I'm really in that place of 100% caring for myself that a woman is going to be able to come into my life. So the idea of I only need to take care of 50% of myself so that a woman can come in and take the other 50% really isn't going to work,
Mhm.
right? I need to be completely solid in my identity. I need to
Yeah, this is
be
fucking
completely
base.
solid in my masculinity and in my ability to be self-reliant, so that I can remove neediness, so that a woman is going to have the space to thrive inside of a relationship with me.
Yeah, of
Right.
course.
And
And when you
that's
can
that's
display
the
that you have 100% your own, that makes you more attractive to higher
Oh
caliber
yeah,
women, I believe.
100%.
yeah, and I think that's the issue is that we are raised as men to no one's ever gonna fucking save you. Like you even
Mm-hmm.
think about like the bullies at school and like we don't get it as much nowadays as we did, and I think you guys got it a little bit more than I did. You can't really do much by tattletaling, and so you just learn that in life no one's gonna fucking save you. It's about you. So, yeah, maybe it is BS that guys have to do. If you think of it as like 200% as the total of the relationship, when they say 50-50, it means that they want to give half to the relationship, which is the 100% they should be giving already. That's where things get confused. And so I think that that's a very interesting dynamic and understanding. And it's very interesting, like how women use language and how they understand it versus how men do, because men try and get so matter of fact. But I
Yeah.
really think that that's exactly what it is. When we're talking 50-50, we're not talking 50-50. It's that I will give 100% of what I'm supposed to be required to do to begin with, but I will promise you my requirement if you're doing your requirement, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that it's on men, right, to redefine what masculinity looks like moving forward. Like we need a
Right.
refresh, and women are not going to do it for us. So we have to redefine it for ourselves, and then from that place, lead them into a more of a place of harmony between us. We need that direly, and I think society's still kind of going towards more disconnect, and it's
Let's pause there. Let's pause there because I want to have those teaching moments. You're saying, it's still the men's responsibility. I would agree with you on that. However, you were saying like to reach a better harmony by communicating with the woman better. So my question to you would be, where do you think men are failing the most, at least on that end of the spectrum, when it comes to connecting and leading with that celebrity energy, such that a woman would never want to leave you?
I think by far is going to be our ability to um, process and understand our own emotions in a way that you can communicate them clearly to a woman and that she feels that you can handle them, right? I think men are crumbling under the own weight of their emotions, not because they're weak, but because no one taught them how to feel.
And no one taught them how to express them in a way that doesn't make them collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I would add on top of that, and I know you're going to like this one, Jake. I think that men have, and again, not to necessarily fault of their own, but because they're not taught it anymore, have completely abdicated any sense of leadership in relationships.
I agree.
And they don't know how to not only lead a woman, but lead themselves and lead their own lives. Right. And a big part of that is going to be being able to lead themselves emotionally and work through, the difficult times in their lives. But I feel like a lot of guys, and I've been guilty of this even myself a lot of the times, they'll enter into an interaction or a relationship with a woman and almost immediately abdicate leadership
Yeah.
to the woman.
Yeah.
And that always is going to lead to the downfall of whatever it is, either the relationship or the interaction that you're having with her.
I think that's a really good point. They are abdicating leadership, both as a result of no one teaching them about what leadership is,
Mhm.
and because society is asking that of men. Society's asking men to
I don't know,
abdicate leadership.
guys. This is sounding a lot like a patriarchy right now.
Oh no, a man leading. How dare we?
Yeah.
No,
No,
well,
but you guys are
patriarchy
making
is
a
a
really
great
good
thing.
point. I don't want to derail you. You guys are making a fantastic point, and it's coming back to the yin and yang between the masculine and the feminine energy, and how it's so necessary that we do have that masculinity within that masculine energy, which is what we are losing today.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that, like you're saying, on a society level, like if you were to bring these ideas to the mass media or something, they would just wholesale swiftly reject that. But if you bring it down to a smaller scale, like an interaction between you and a woman, you're going to see very clearly that she desperately wants you to lead.
Mm.
And if you don't lead, she's just going to swiftly walk away from you because yeah, I know you're loving this right now. Jake's the man when it comes to leadership, for sure. Like, he's all about leadership, and I've learned a lot from him in this
All
regard.
right, Jake, let's hear about your leadership.
Well, I mean, honestly, I want to say that was fire. I think
Thank you, sir.
that is I was on the nose, right? That's on the nose as far as the interaction. So we've been learning a lot about going out, talking to women, being celebrity energy, and I think that for me, the part about that I enjoy the most is leadership, and I think a big reason that is because that was never I was never asked to me growing up as a boy and then becoming a young man, and so now that I've figured out what leadership looks like for me, I really enjoy it a lot. Right, I enjoy my own masculinity. I enjoy the fact that I can I can make a woman feel like I've got it handled, right? Because then she relaxes and I relax, uh, and for me, leadership is about bringing a woman to a place that she couldn't get by herself. But more importantly, she's better off having followed me than she was having not. Right. So my leadership is my gift to give to women. Right. It's my responsibility as the masculine to give my gifts, and my gift is to lead them to places where they can heal, where they can have positive experiences that they've never had before, because I was there, because I chose to go talk to that woman. So that's what leadership means to me, and I think it's really exciting for me, and I really enjoy the process of learning about it. So
No, I love that, man. And that's you brought up a great point. Is you give them the comfort to know that you got it.
Yeah.
And it starts with the smallest things, especially in an advanced relationship, a serious relationship. Because I've seen so many guys make this mistake. Okay, I make the money, it goes in the account and everything, but you pay the bills. You got this. No, that's the number one emasculating thing a man can do is say, okay, you take care of writing the checks or the direct deposits, whatever, however it does. But you give him the comfort of, okay, well, no, he's got it. He pays the light bill, he pays the water bill, he pays the internet bill. I don't have to worry about that. That's a comfort. That's a leadership comfort that a man can give a woman. And leadership is not a dictatorship. That doesn't mean you say that everything that goes. I want the dishes done every fucking night. No, that's not leadership, man. Leadership is giving them the comfort to not have to worry about the things that they would have to if you weren't there.
Yeah.
And
And
I
like,
think that's the best thing that you can do as a man, you know. And if even if you're both earning and paying, you take care of the bills, dude. Make sure she doesn't worry about that. You know, if the electric bill is $50 more a month this month than it was last month, don't bring that up. You don't have to worry about that. And those are the types of leadership that really gives a woman a comforting relationship, because she can do her feminine. You're doing the masculine. And that's where it gets misconstrued. Leadership, following, those terms have become derogatory because unfortunately, a lot of men that have been taught what it means to lead, they take that as a dictator type role. And okay, well, I'm the man, what I say goes. No, that's not what it means, buddy. That means what you do in the relationship takes the worry off of her to have to worry about that stuff. And that's, to me, that's true leadership.
Okay. I'm going to drop a knowledge bomb here.
Let's
So
go.
we all know that women, they think logically. They think in numbers. So when we're talking about household chores and you're trying to split 50-50 or whatever nonsense that Kevin's talking about, paying bills or whatever, cheat code here. She has one task, okay? One out of the list of 19, 20, 29, 49, 69, whatever tasks that need to get done every month. She's the plumber. So she only has one thing to do. And you just consistently fucking clog that toilet. And okay,
As we do.
I can take this bit so far, and I just don't want to. No, but that's it. It's such a good point. It's such a good point. Like, and I think that's where it gets mixed up, Kevin, where we think that it's that 50-50 means an equal exchange. No, it means that we're going to give the half, if not more, of the amount if you were meeting expectation.
Yeah, exactly. And it is the man's job. And this is something we definitely talk about a lot about in our podcast. It's the man's job to step in attention and to handle things that are difficult, right? The woman should not be handling things that are difficult. She should be allowed to relax and have fun and be feminine and be in her feminine energy, but she can't be like that if she's stressed out, right? So as a man, it is your job to handle the tension in your life, handle the tension in her life, so that she can exist in a space where she can just relax and feel free to be sexy and to be, fun and to be flirty and to be flowy, right? Because if she has to turn on her masculine energy and start stepping into her own amount of tension, that's always going to make the relationship struggle, which is why, again, any relationship where the woman has to work like full time, it's always going to struggle. It's not to say that it can't work. People make it work all the time. But if she's constantly stepping into tension every single day for 8 hours, 10 hours, and then coming home after facing all that tension, she's going to struggle to be feminine. And she's going to struggle to show up in the way that you want her to show up.
Dude,
because-
I literally just went through this like 2 months ago.
Yeah. Shout out
It is a nightmare.
to Kevin Samuels, man. Remember, he used to always say that stress is made for shoulders, not for hips, right?
Wow, that one's good.
Yeah.
Dude, I love this topic of like, defining your masculinity, increasing your nervous system strength so that you can step in attention as the man and you can free her to be flowing and to bring life, to be that energy. I love this topic so much.
Yeah. That's a big thing that we talk about. Where, it kind of flows off the embodiment principles of nervous system regulation and your ability to step in attention. What we tell guys is that You know, when you want to go out, you want to talk to girls, you want to be able to have good interactions with girls, you want to be able to flirt with them, you want to be able to get their numbers and date them and have sex with them. You need to be able to, even on the small scale of just having a one-on-one person interaction, you need to be able to hold the tension. Right. And a lot of guys, that's where guys struggle. That's where, like, you know, the approach anxiety comes from, is because they can't walk up to a girl and create a tense situation, right? Which is a situation where they're expressing to them, hey, I'm interested in you, for a romantic possibility.
Or when they do, they completely fold.
And they
Yeah.
completely crumble underneath that pressure, which is why the woman is unable to feel attraction for him, because the woman is now being forced to handle the tension because he can't handle it. Right. Whereas if he can walk up and just be completely grounded and confident, right? This is why girls say, like, oh, I like a guy who's confident. What does that really mean? It means a guy who can step into the tension and not crumble and just enjoy himself. Right. He can be sitting there talking to a beautiful woman and expressing his true desire for her without him feeling like, I'm doing something wrong, I'm doing something bad, or being so caught up in his own fears that he's like, what do I say? Right? She's not going to be able to be turned on by that, because he's abdicating his masculine ability to handle the tension. Right? So now she's got to handle the tension.
Yeah, that was very well said. And honestly, I think this is the cutting edge of dating and confidence for men. I think that, we don't really talk about lines or what you should say to women. We talk about, your nervous system. How do you handle tension? How do you step into it? How do you ground yourself? Right. In my mind, that's why I'm so excited about us, because I think that we're really bringing a new flavor to this space, and one that is, we've talked about how times are different, right? And so it's calling on us to redefine what it means to be masculine and to be confident. And I feel like that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And, to bring it back to celebrity energy, which we actually haven't really touched on a whole lot, but that's fine, because the whole point of the podcast is supposed to be deeper than it sounds, right? This is the kind of deep shit that we go into. But times have changed, and maybe there was a time when you could be the guy who, wasn't, super confident or willing to be seen. You could still attract a girl, and, like, you could whatever, get married and you could live a life. And I think there's definitely a lot of, like, rose-colored glasses that go in with that shit and thinking like that's a happy life or whatever. But in the modern age, you do need to be able to bring in that level of confidence and that kind of celebrity energy and walk around like you own the place, to have girls, wanting to get with you, because we all hear like the numbers and the percentages about, like, a certain number of girls are only attracted to a certain percentage of guys and stuff like that. So, you really have to step up, because these things are true, and they're not reasons to become upset, and they're not reasons to play victim. They're just truths about life. And what are you going to do with that truth? Like, you're going to have to step up, and yeah, it sucks sometimes. And a lot of times it's not even fair, but what else are you going to do? Right? What else are you going to do with your life? Just sit there and whine about it and cry about it? I know a lot of guys make
that's the go-to now.
I know a lot of guys find some good followings and stuff on, Twitter and YouTube and everything by complaining about women, but that's not the way I want to live my life, and me and Jake, we're big on this. Like, we never, ever hate on women. We love women. We think women are great. We think women are so fun and so feminine.
What are you
sweet.
gay or something?
Yeah, right. What are you, gay? You like women? What the fuck is wrong with you? We go out because here's the thing. Here's the thing, that me and Jake, we actually talk to women. We talk to a lot of women. We go out all the time. Like, we're not just sitting behind our computer screen talking about it. We are living it. We go out minimum 3 times a week. We go out and we talk to girls. We talk to so many girls. We meet so many girls. And when you actually talk to women in real life and not just talk about certain, like, feminist ideas on the internet, you do realize that women really haven't changed that much. Like, they're still super
but no,
sweet,
that's the issue.
feminine.
That's the issue. They don't talk like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is friendly to me.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on ChatGPT, man. I love ChatGPT. It's my best friend right there.
No, you brought up the most important point when it comes to that is remaining on your purpose as a man, still being captivating to the woman, even after she said she loved you and she let you touch her boobies. Remaining captivating and still being exciting and still being fun and still having new things to show her. That's what keeps women involved.
Yeah.
You know, saying the right things to get her in bed and then to put the ring on the finger. But then you turn into, okay, Sundays, I just want to relax and watch 2.5 Men and drink a Bud Light. That's not going to keep her. But you have to still do it for yourself. You still have to better yourself, stay on your purpose, stay an active man in your own life and still continue to grow. And that's what will keep anybody, and vice versa. I mean, do you want to, okay, you put a ring on her finger and maybe had a kid and now she's gained 70 pounds. Are you still going to be that interested in her? Probably not. I wouldn't be. So, I mean, it works both ways. So that's why, women, the biggest thing for a woman to want to leave a relationship is it gets boring.
Yeah.
If she gets stuck in a routine, it's like, this is not fun anymore.
Why
But
do
that's
women
because a
stay?
lot
Yeah.
of women,
And if a guy thinks
why do women stay in abusive relationships? Right?
are exciting.
Point.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not going to go down that rabbit hole. But what I'm saying is, you brought it up. That's why you stay on your purpose as a man. And look, women find their purpose, men create their purpose. I'm a firm believer in that, and I will always believe in that. Men
Yeah.
don't find their purpose. Men create it. If you haven't
Yeah.
created it yet, if you haven't looked for it, if you haven't found it, it's time to fucking start. But if you're not still being that captivating man that she fell in love with 3 years ago.
And Kevin, that's it right there. That's what I wanted you to hone in on. That was the key point. It's the person that she fell in love with. If you are not the person she fell in love with, then you're doing everything wrong.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you become stagnant and you stop improving yourself and you stop, like we've already talked about, living for yourself and still striving to be the better self that you can, that she's going to lose interest. And it's vice versa, guys. It's not just, like I said, I mean, I've seen so many marriages, guys get married to these. I was in the military for active duty for 13 years, still in the reserve. I've seen these guys, they get married to the first girl that lets them touch her boobies.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Hold
they
on.
get
I
married.
wasn't
Well,
sure.
hey,
The
it's so
chick,
fun though.
they get married, the chick gains 50 pounds. That twinkle in their eye they used to have when they come to work is not there anymore. So it works both ways, So, I mean, it's not just men staying captivating, still live your own life, but you can do that together is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and staying
Mhm.
captivating, like I feel like a lot of that comes back to leadership as well, because as a man, you need to, like you're saying, you create your own meaning, right? Like as a man, you need to be creating your own life. There's really no excuse anymore. Like we're saying, times have changed. It's not, you don't graduate high school and go work at the factory for 50 years. You can create whatever life you want now. People complain all the time about like, oh, lack of opportunities. There's no such thing. Like you can create whatever kind of life you want these days. And that's what's going to draw a woman into your life is like, you're creating a life. You're creating a purpose.
Jesus
And then she
fucking
comes
Christ.
into that.
I'm sorry, Brad. I'm sorry. I have to like interrupt you here because I can't get over this in my head. At my previous job, I had one of the guys in the warehouse. He came up to me one day and he said, I'm going to start my OnlyFans. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know, man. I see it like I'm black and I see a lot of people that just jack off online and make a lot of money. So I'm doing it. And so I'm just like thinking, I'm just thinking about what you're talking about it, like with like you don't like
And
graduate
that guy
college.
probably has a wife. All right.
They're divorced, but okay.
Okay, but yeah, exactly, right. But he created his own life, right?
It's just so funny. Yes, there is opportunity, but be smart about the opportunity you're taking.
Sure. Be smart about the opportunity.
I mean, hey, if he makes money doing that, go do
Yeah,
it. Right?
exactly.
It's just that is he going to make any money doing that?
But yeah, create a life, and any girl that enters it, like you teach her, you lead her, like, hey, this is the way I live my life. If you want to be my girl, this is the way we're going to lead our lives, and this is how it's going to be moving forward. And you have to continue that vision Whereas a lot of guys, I feel like they're so stuck in this old mindset of why I went to high school, I went to college, and I got a job. I just want a
I did
girl to
everything
marry me now.
right.
Yeah. I just want a girl to marry me, and I don't want to have to do anything else. I don't want to have to create a life or have this vision. I just want to like work my job, come home, and watch TV.
Yeah, play video games.
But that's just not life anymore. Like, no, I don't want to say that that's what life ever even was. I feel like there's a lot of kind of like misplaced nostalgia for the way things used to be that aren't exactly accurate. I feel like women are still responding
so?
to men.
How so?
So like what I'm saying, like this idea that, oh, I used to just be able to graduate high school, get a factory job, get a wife, and I would live this amazing life or this good life. And it's like, was that life, was it really good, or were those guys still just coming home, watching TV and being miserable, and their wives were nagging them? The only difference was there were maybe stricter divorce laws, so the wife couldn't leave. But
right, it was
like,
still,
is that
yeah.
really
And you could
ideal?
and you could beat your wife back then.
Yeah, or like shit like that, right?
All right,
It's
don't
like,
clip that.
yeah, we'll clip that.
No, but I understand what you're saying. And it's interesting. Because yeah, things are a lot more fucking boring. I'm not gonna lie on that. They had less that they could do. So it does kind of make sense that, it wouldn't make any sense that they would be happier. I
Yeah,
think that's
so like
false
instead of
equivalent.
a lot of it's just mindset, because we can look at the modern age and think of it like, oh, things are so tough for men these days. Women only like the top 20% of guys and blah, 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 blah. But we could also look at it as this is the best time ever for men because it's never been
It's
easier.
never been easier.
It's never been easier to embrace the masculine spirit of adventure. It's just,
Yeah.
it's scary.
Mhm.
You got to overcome your fears to go after what you want. And God knows, like, I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy because I embraced the masculine spirit by doing everything I did last year, came here, immediately suffered an ego death, which was just one of the worst things I've ever gone through in my entire life. So it was very difficult and it was very painful. But once I came out of that and I realized, like, holy shit, I'm free. I'm literally completely free. Every single day of my life, I wake up and I just do what I want to do. And what I want to do is build this podcast with Jake right now. And that's all I do. I do that and I go to the gym and I go out and I talk to girls and I live my life exactly the way I want to live it because I can. Like, the internet affords me that possibility. I'm not longing for a day where I'd have to go work in a factory to come home to a nagging wife. Like that doesn't sound appealing to me at all. And she has to stay with me because divorce laws aren't loose. We'll just strengthen the divorce laws. And it's like, okay, so you force a woman to stay with you. That's your ideal solution now. Like, why don't you just become a man she wants to stay with?
Yeah. And coming back full circle to the celebrity energy. When you start to exhibit that in the way that you live your life, and I'm thinking about you right now, Brad, because I know you've gotten back into some of the dances and whatnot with the raves.
Yeah.
You're pretty good, man. You're a hell of a lot better than I am. I tried to do it during ED, and I felt like an idiot. And then I just kind of sulked in the corner.
You have to feel like, dude, it takes honestly, it took me like 2 months of looking like an idiot just to get the basic movement down, like the one basic movement. And yeah, it's tough, but celebrity energy, the way I really think about it, and it's the reason you actually reached out to us originally, right? Was because celebrity energy is all about authenticity. It's all about being comfortable, being seen for your authentic self. And the dancing is something that's just very authentic to me. Music is one of my biggest passions in life. And when I started, picking up dancing as well, it just became an extension of the music for me. That's very authentic to me. I love dancing. I love music. So yeah, I practice the dancing. I record myself. I record videos of me doing it. I post it online and it gets me a lot of attention online because of the dancing. And a lot of people can't handle that kind of attention, right? But Even me, like even me when I started doing it, it was a little uncomfortable for me. It's like, oh my God, like hundreds of people are like seeing me do this. And now with the podcast, it's like, you know, we've had an episode get over 1,500 views. And I'm like, oh my God, like and this podcast, like we're not holding back on this podcast. I talk about, and if you watch we had an episode just dropped today where I go into some of my struggles like with addiction and stuff. And like, it gets really raw and vulnerable. And it's like shit that I haven't told most people. But now I'm just putting my shit on blast for the entire world to see so that I can expand my nervous system's capacity to be seen. Truly seen. Not just seen like, oh, it's my face on a screen, but like truly seen at my core. Who I am, who is Brad, what's his passions, what's his strengths, what's his weaknesses, what's his dark sides, right? I think a lot of guys struggle because they're always trying to cover up their dark side. They don't want anyone to find out, right? Shame, right? They don't think they're good enough to get a girl. They don't think they're good enough to make the friends they want. They don't think they're good enough to make the money they want. So they try to do these things. They try to make friends. They try to get the girls. They try to make money, but they're doing it from a place of shame. So they're not fully stepping into it with their full-fledged authenticity. And a lot of what we teach is about really embracing your true authenticity at your core. And the authenticity is what shines when you're not being or when the authenticity is not being overshadowed by shame, fear, you know, pride and stuff like that, right? When you're trying to put on this show for people of who you think they want you to be, right? It's just all ego at that point. It's not true authenticity. So to become truly authentic, you have to shed those layers of insecurities, those layers of ego, those layers of shame to really let your true self come out. And you know, our podcast is really it's a lot about our journey of learning to do that. We don't actually pretend to sit up on the podcast and be like, we're the guys who got it. We will admit we're not there yet. The whole point of the podcast is it's supposed to be a story of how we're getting there. So, you know, if you watch the podcast, you're going to see our evolution. It's not just, oh, we go on and Brad and Jake are just telling you how to live your life.
Yeah,
That's not what
but
it's
come
about.
on, dude. I'm coming to Brad and Jake because I need all the answers right here, right now.
Yeah. And it's okay to not have all the answers right here, right now. That's something that was a hard realization I had to come to because, you know, after my marriage, I went through this whole like, you know, dating extravaganza where I hooked up with all these girls and I was living this super extravagant lifestyle and it was so great. And when I broke up with my fiance last year, I thought I was just going to jump right back into that. But something different happened that really threw me for a loop. And I was actually struggling. And I was like, wow, this is weird. Like I have more game knowledge and skill than I've ever had in my life, but I'm struggling more than I did when I first started. What's going on? And it's because
That's
I
actually
had
wild.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it really threw me for a loop.
I want
Okay,
to
I
hear
had to-
this.
I have to
'cause
ask you,
I'm
are you
thinking,
struggling with what?
Go
Was
ahead.
it struggling with the cold approach, or have you
It was
evolved
It was the
to a
internal
point that
stuff.
it wasn't
It was
that important to you anymore?
it was just the internal stuff that I was really struggling with, right?
Okay.
And so I realized that, oh my God, even though I have like all this like knowledge up in my head and I have all these past experiences, I still need to go through the same internal process that I went through back in the day. And this time it's actually been even more difficult because back in the day, the only thing I had to deal with was the breakup. But this time I had to deal with the breakup. I had to deal with the leaving the secure job, leaving my home state, leaving my support system, you know, leaving my house, being in a new place, a new city, all of that. I had all of these things going on. And I realized that I had built such an attachment to my old external circumstances, you know, like, oh, I'm this amazing guy because I have this job, I have this house, I have this super hot fiance. And then I got rid of all that stuff, and I had to think about, well, like, okay, well, if I don't have those, then like, who the fuck am I?
Mhm.
Right. And I also decided that this would be a good time to get sober. And that added a whole extra layer of like identity crisis to me, because
Holy
I
fuck,
also
dude.
realized,
I did that during my last
yeah,
breakup. Yeah.
I also realized that I was covering up a lot of negative emotions by just numbing out and escaping them. Right. So I really, and I asked for this. I asked the universe to do this to me. I said I wanted to grow. I said I really wanted to get in touch with myself and develop a better relationship with myself and become more confident. And I'd kind of reached the pinnacle of what I could do with that stuff, given my old lifestyle. So in a way, it was like just kind of fate that like everything had to be stripped away from me so that I could rebuild my entire identity from scratch.
Okay.
And it's been
But it
it's
wasn't building
still
it from
ongoing.
scratch. It wasn't building it from scratch. It was getting back to the core of who you are.
Sure. Yeah. That's probably a better way of saying it, for sure. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was a very difficult process. I'm still going through it to a degree, but I've really come out of it, and I'm having a lot more fun, a lot more success, feeling a lot more comfortable going out again, talking to girls and everything. So
Yeah. Well, what I was getting at is maybe like reach a point in your life, like, you knew those guys in high school, especially in high school, maybe in college too, that I have to get laid tonight. I need this. I need that. And I never understood that. And then now that the age I am in now, like, I don't worry about that. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I don't feel like it's a loss if I don't hook up that night. And I think that when you reach that point as a man, that it's not, there's not a need. There's not even really a want, but you just go out and have a good time by yourself. If you come home alone, whatever. If you come home and hook up, whatever, that's fine. You don't wake up the next morning feeling like it's a loss or a win either way. And that's where I'm at right now. And, we got a good friend, Jaron Scott, that he was part of the Men of Now. They're doing their own thing now. And that's great. But it was hard for him to understand. He's early 30s. He's living in Mexico City, cleaning up with women. But it was strange for him to meet men my age in Mexico City that went there to have a good time, go to raves, do whatever. But then, oh, you want to go hook up? I don't care either way. And it was hard for him to understand that at first, but he understands it now. That you reach a point in life that, it's not about getting your dick wet. It's not about hooking up with chicks. It's about having a good time and getting out of your comfort zone, like you talked about dancing. And then when you reach that comfort level with yourself, I don't care what other people think. You'll realize that most people just like to see somebody having a good time by themselves. And I mean, whether you dance good or not, there's a line of guys sitting over there just bobbing their head with their arms crossed. But the three guys that are out there dancing on the dance floor, they're getting more attention than anybody else because they are doing what they want to do.
yeah.
If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
And like you were saying with the dancing and everything, I've known that because I live close to Raleigh. There's a lot of live bands. There's a lot of nightlife around. I see that. And now I don't care if I dance to your liking or what you like to see. I'm having a great time. I've noticed that people are drawn to that a lot more than the guys sitting in the bar with the Bud Light.
Energy. And that goes back to what we were talking about. That goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. And I think that's the thing that we really need to hone in on when we talk about energy. You are your own stream in the river of life. And depending on how you control your stream determines how strong it's going to be and determines the flow of the life that you have. You are allowed to control whatever life you want to live. And that is what your role is as a man, is to be the leader of your life, is to be the controller of that stream, and to make sure it runs through the river of life, the energy in the right way possible, so that you can go ahead and end up where it is that you actually want to be. I mean, hell, that's an entire other conversation that gets so frustrating for us sometimes, talking with guys who can't even define their goals. But
Yeah.
that's the one piece on that I really wanted to hit home, is that when you are the leader, you essentially are just defining that frequency and that current within the river.
Yeah,
Love
you
that,
can't
yeah.
be a leader if you don't have a destination that you're trying to lead the other person to. And
It's fun.
I suffered from that as well for years, where I would struggle to articulate exactly what my goals were and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. It really did take me burning my whole entire old life to the ground to force those real questions on myself. Is like, everything was just so easy for me before. And so it was just easy to coast and just get by.
Mhm.
Question.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Since you guys broke up 2 weeks before the wedding,
Yeah.
did you take any hits on the fees?
I'm not 100% sure like what the exact financials are, but I mean, I do know that her parents were paying for most of the wedding, and I don't know how much of that they got back. So could have
Dude,
been
you're like,
bad.
LOL, I'm out. And
Yeah.
your parents are paying. Okay, sorry, I'm being a dick.
Yeah, no, it's
Is it?
yeah.
It's just her parents.
What's that?
Just her parents were paying.
Her parents were
not to ask.
paying for the majority of
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
for sure. Like, I mean, obviously, a lot of people lost money on the whole situation, but and don't get me wrong, like that was a factor that even played in my head. I was like, oh, can I do this? There's so much money in this. It was like, okay, like I understand there's a lot of money at stake here, but we're also talking about my life. We're
Yeah.
talking about her life.
It'd be worse to go through with it when you know it's not the right move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So even worse, like let me really throw you guys with this one, is that it was the right thing. It's just that if I didn't call it off, it wouldn't have been the worst thing. And that made the decision so difficult because,
Like, you
again,
just
it
coulda
wasn't like the
lived.
relationship was a disaster.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I hated this person. It was like, okay,
All
like,
right,
we've
Brad,
lived a
what did
decent
she not
life.
do for you? What did she not do for you sexually?
That's funny.
There was some level of a lack of like chemistry or something like that, and it was hard to articulate. It really was. It was hard to articulate a lot of it, but there was
I
something.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, I think I don't know. Do you remember this? I think a couple years ago, I think I called you, and I was having a tough moment one time. This was like earlier in the relationship, where I was struggling with something, where I was like, I feel like I'm not getting exactly what I need out of this, and I ignored a lot of those issues because, oh, she was just so hot, like. So
I know,
like,
dude. This is the same conversation we had that day. Because I
yeah.
remember exactly where I was sitting. That's 2 apartments ago.
Okay.
I remember exactly where I was sitting when we had this conversation, and I said the exact same thing to you. It's like, I understand that it seems to make sense, but in the long run, this is not the best move because you're unhappy. She's going to be unhappy. You both are going to end up unhappy.
Here we are today.
I took your advice and put it into action a year and a half later. All right.
Fair enough.
Just took me a while. All right. It took me a while to process it.
Well, no, I mean that's another avenue to go down, but I mean at least you felt that. At least you realized that.
And you
At
did
least
something
you
about it.
acted on those feelings.
Yeah, I had a lot of things go on in my life last year that helped push me there. I tragically lost a cousin last year in a plane crash, and he was a pilot. He was flying the plane. He was the only one on board, so he was the only one that died from the situation. But man, he was so passionate about being a pilot. Every time I talked to him, like he couldn't stop talking about it. He was so smart. He was so wise. He knew everything about planes. Like he could tell me the craziest, tiniest little details about planes, about being a pilot. Like, I could just, I could see it in this man and he was my age too. Like he was only about 7 months older than me.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to him a lot of times, and I'd be so inspired by him, but I'd also feel like jealous because I'd be like, man, like you really found it, haven't you? You found like the thing that you would literally, the thing you would die for. And I
Mhm.
felt like I just didn't have that in my life. And when he died, that really affected me, that he died doing what he loved. And I just thought about myself. I was like, what would I be willing to fucking die for? And I was like, I have nothing in my life that I'd be willing to die for, or to go broke for, or to really put every single ounce of energy into my being. And so I thought about that a lot. And that is, it's not the maybe the largest part, but it's definitely a part that helped me come to the conclusion that, I'm living my life on such autopilot and safety mode. I'm just kind of living my parents' life, walking into the safe life that they encouraged for me.
Mhm.
And now, like, I'm living a super, super dangerous life, because I don't have the stable job that I used to have. And I don't own, the house that I used to own. Like, I sold it, and I'm just living off
I'm
the
on
money.
unemployment. I
Yeah,
don't have a house.
I'm living
doing,
off.
I don't know. I'm developing a meth addiction. I'm trying on it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And if you got, the meth is great. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
no, like I'm just living off thankfully I was pretty good financially in my old job. I saved up a lot of money, and then I sold my house. So like I have money to live off of now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any income from a safe job, right? I only have income from what I generate through our business.
Mhm.
So I'm living a quote unquote dangerous life, a life that's not secure, a life that's not safe, but I feel more alive than I've ever felt before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great realization, man. I'm kind of in the same situation. I had the cush job, was doing great. About 3 months ago, the position was taken away from me. Now I've got several options to take. But I decided to start my own business. But I did the same thing, got an emergency fund. I'm good to go for at least the next year to live the same lifestyle I'm living now. And if I can't get something going, at least I tried,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And I'm not scared. I mean,
Yeah.
the few people I've let into my life to know what's actually going on right now are more scared than I am. And
Sure.
most of them are family members,
Sure. Yeah.
But to me, it's a great position to be in, because now I only have to realize I rely on myself, and I would rather do that than rely on somebody else.
Isn't that
'Cause I
such
just
an
know how quick
amazing
it would be taken
feeling?
away.
Because we really lack the opportunities to have that feeling of pure self-reliance in our lives.
Mhm.
And I'm not scared anymore, but holy shit, was I scared when I first did
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like I would say like I was living in like sheer terror for like a solid month or
I was
two.
going to ask you, are you still scared? Are you? Because
No,
it's
I'm
not
not.
a
I
bad
mean,
thing to
don't
be
get me
scared.
wrong. Like I'm still like I still have moments where like I worry or like, oh, okay, how am I
Mhm.
going to make this work? But because I've made it through the really, really scary parts, and I've realized that like, hey, I'm still alive. I'm still okay.
Mhm.
I've really gotten over the fear, and I'm learning the self-reliance, right? I'm just learning to trust myself and
Yeah.
believe in
Yeah.
myself in a way that I
Yeah.
never have before. And
What's fire?
it's fun.
And
Yeah,
I
it's
would say
fun.
it's not really fear; it's just being aware.
Yeah.
Because you hear all the horror stories. The people that had the house, the thing, they lost everything. But you're not in that position. I'm not in that position. I'm not hooked on meth. On
Not
contrary,
yet.
how it
That was
appears
a
here.
weird pause
But
right there.
I mean, and
I'm
that's the
not.
thing. And I know that I can do it on my own. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be the end of the world. Even the worst can
Exactly.
happen. I was talking about this is a couple of years ago. Somebody was like, "Well, when's the last time you hit rock bottom?" Like, what do you mean?
2 months ago. Woo.
No, when you hit, I mean, but did you really hit rock bottom? Because I had to look at him and say,
Oh,
you
I
know what?
sure
I've
did.
never hit rock bottom.
Oh, I hit rock bottom a few months
Yeah,
ago.
I
It
wasn't there staying in a shelter
sucked.
and wanting a cardboard box to,
No,
do the
that's a
thing.
good point,
Okay,
Kevin.
maybe not in that sense of rock bottom. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
you know,
Right. You're right. It's a matter of
Yeah,
perspective. What's
yeah,
really
yeah,
rock bottom?
yeah.
I hit
yeah,
rock bottom emotionally. but not physically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was fine. Like I hit rock bottom in my beautiful 2-bedroom pool view apartment.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I mean, it could always be worse.
Yeah, true.
But the good thing about it, I'm so grateful to meet you guys, and I think that your podcast and what you've got going on is going to grow, along with Men of Now. What we've got going on, we're going to be allies, and we can work together in the future. And I think it's going to be great. It's going to be. I love what you guys are doing. I love your outlook. I love the way you guys are confident, not only in yourselves, but the people you have around you. And I think that's what it's all about. Because
Absolutely.
these today, either you're in a high rise on Miami Marina or you're living like a peasant. And
yeah.
that's not the way it is, man. Stay the fuck off YouTube. That's a oxymoron, I guess. But
Yeah,
there's
except to
so
watch
many ways.
Practically Famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Men of Now.
But they've made it seem like to young people nowadays, either you're Wes Watson, which I detest.
I love that guy.
Oh, you
I
did?
love,
Okay.
I love the guys that just get on there and tell me not to be a little bitch. I don't know why I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I just like I can emotionally handle it. I can see why some people might not like it, but I love just hearing that shit. Like, you're right, man. I am being a little bitch.
Yeah,
I
he used
love
to get
seeing
fucked in the
people
ass
crash
by
out.
the other guys. So, but just saying, no, I mean it's great. I'm looking forward to what the future holds for all of us, and anybody who sees this. I hope you, even if you don't like, what we've got going here, I hope you respect it, because we're just trying to live our best lives, because we only get one. It came up earlier. Whether there's an afterlife or not, you only get one of these on this earth. So live it the best you fucking can.
Yeah.
Do it the best you can. And if you fail, that's fine. You still live to try again. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and realizing that failure won't kill you. And I know like me and Jake, we're so guilty of this. Like we love to get just like deep and talk about super serious shit, but like developing celebrity energy and stuff, like it's about enjoying your life. It's about having fun. Like we're all about just having a good time, going out, acting like you own the place, acting like a celebrity, acting like everyone wants to talk to you, acting like every girl wants to be with you, and not just acting, but like embodying it, right? Let's go back to embodiment.
They do.
Let me not take away from your embodiment, Jake, right? Embodying that idea that like, why not? Why not me? And that's a big lesson that's come up for me over the past few months is that, I was a teacher before in my past life. And so the idea of like becoming famous or something like that seems kind of ridiculous. But then I moved out here and I started pursuing this, and I just started thinking like, why not me?
Yeah.
Why can't I do this? Why can't I live whatever life I want to live? Why can't I become whatever kind of man I want to be? Why can't I get whatever girls I want to get? Like, why not? Like, you don't have to be stuck in what you think you are or what you think you were born into or even who you think you are. Like, you get to decide who you are at the end of the day.
What's the
Nobody
purpose
else
of
gets to
life?
decide that.
And what's the purpose of life?
What do you say?
It's figuring out your own purpose.
Yeah. So, well, and I said this on the podcast
Exactly
a couple of
what you're
weeks.
saying.
Life is about the purpose of life is about figuring out the life you want to live and then living it. That's it.
Yeah.
And don't fuck with other people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my
Like,
number one rule.
be cool. Yeah. Be cool. Don't be a dick. But like, other than that, like, just literally, and don't censor yourself. Just think like, if I could literally live any life I wanted, how would I want that to look? And then literally just start living it today, because there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you. And anybody on our channel that sees this, make sure you subscribe to Practically Famous. If you're seeing this from Practically Famous, subscribe to us. It helps the channel. It helps us. Even if you don't like us, I don't care. You don't have to hit notification bell. You don't have to see it, but somebody that might see it and might get some benefit out of this.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, it was great to meet you. I look forward to working with you guys in the future, but I have to roll. And like we said, the future is ours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we'd like to extend some gratitude to you guys for holding this space for us. I think this was an amazing conversation, and we're happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks. It
Absolutely.
sounds great.
Very much appreciate you guys, and definitely want to do some more stuff in the future. I know you guys have like a smaller group on the side. We have our group as well. So this is definitely something we're going to be thinking about doing some more collaborations in the future. So for those that do consistently watch, or if you're catching a replay, let us know down below some of the topics you would want us to cover, and some of those topics maybe we would do in a joint session, because I think you guys could tell that I came a little bit looser than normal, and that's because I'm hanging out with my good friends here. And I would love to get fully loose, but I can't do that unless we're behind the paywall.
I love it when you get fully loose.
That's my favorite.
Dude, we were in what? We were in Vegas, and it was
Vegas.
like all of 10, 15 minutes before I was fully naked. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Hud's roomed together in Vegas a while back,
That's
and
funny.
well, what happens in Vegas? You know?
Yeah. No clothes
Yeah.
needed in Vegas,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Oh man, but no, this was a really great conversation. I definitely want to dive deeper into some of these things. And again, if you guys want us to go in certain directions with this, by all means, let us know, because there are so many things that I want to say and I've been wanting to say, but we're already at time. So
Yeah, sure.
we
Yeah,
definitely-
we can talk about this stuff forever. And me and Jake, like, we're the worst. We always just take it so deep. We take it to these deep, like, meaning of life levels of everything. Like, we like to get to the
I
core of
love it, though.
things. and
Yeah, I love it so much.
That's just how we are.
Yeah.
it's better to do it the right way the first time. And so it's better to get a little bit deeper if it means you're going to get to the solution.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people tend to miss on some of these conversations sometimes. But no, this was fantastic. Thank you guys. Until next time, peace out. And yeah, I don't know. I got to figure out a better way to
You
go
got
ahead and end these
some
things.
kind of call off signature, huh?